Alright, here we are on the Gateway Pundit. South Carolina hero pilot threatened with arrest by local bureaucrats while rescuing flood victims. Okay, so I'm not too sure if I want to read it all word for word because that'll take some time, so I guess I'll summarize it. I think his name is Sedholm. He talked about how he was met by a captain or a chief of the fire department, and they were actually working together. The captain or the chief gave him a radio frequency to help them coordinate and everything, but then I'm guessing a higher ranking fire chief showed up, and that's where things went downhill. So Jordan gave the higher up the same information he gave the other guy, and the higher up's response was, if you have that kind of experience, you should know that you should be coordinating with us. Yeah. Jordan says, I have been coordinating with everybody, as I have been here just the day before, speaking with local law enforcement and other rescue personnel. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that higher ranking guy didn't like that response one bit, because it kinda makes him look foolish. Anyway, continuing. I explained to him that I left my son on the side of the mountain, and I left another victim. I was going to go back and bring them. I was already set up for the landing spot, and then I would get out of their area. He told me I wasn't going back up the mountain to get them. I was going to leave them there. If you turn around and go back up that mountain, you're going to be arrested, the higher-up said. Jordan replies, Sir, I'm going back to get my son. I don't know what to tell you. So, that's pretty much the scenario in a summary. Hopefully I didn't butcher it too much. I can think of 3 reasons that higher-up fire chief did what he did. 1, he doesn't want to risk any liabilities. Example, if something happens to this volunteer, Jordan, or his helicopter, or one of the victims he's rescuing, would the blame be put on the fire department or on the volunteer? In other words, will the fire department get sued? Second, maybe he is generally worried that he'll get flooded with volunteers and they'll get in the way, so he wants to discourage people from being volunteers? Maybe. Third reason, he's a bureaucrat. He doesn't want the media showing up, and then out of the blue a volunteer helicopter drops in, because what'll happen, all the media will go to the helicopter and they'll be singing the praise of the civilian volunteer who rescued people, i.e. the bureaucratic fire chief will lose his spotlight. Those are the 3 reasons I can think of. There might be more, but those were the 3 that came to mind. Now there were some other articles, so I'll pop them in as well. Now this article, I want to be sad about it, but it kind of makes sense. Kamala, FEMA to give $750 to disaster victims. Yeah, I could definitely see that happening. On Wednesday, days after Hurricane Helene devastated the area, Kamala Harris flew into North Carolina and proudly announced that FEMA was going to gift the suffering families who lost everything in the historic flood $750 in the form of a check. It's not much of a gift, seeming as how taxpayer dollars funded that, but anyway. And why only $750? Well, according to this article, Kamala's government is missing in action in its response to Helene. Guess why FEMA is out of cash? Well, let's see. As Kamala Harris offers Helene victims $750 each, Joe Biden is offering Ukraine another $2.4 billion. Harris and Biden once again have turned... yeah, they did that a while ago. Now Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas is warning the FEMA is almost out of cash. I wonder why. The reason is that it has spent much of its budget on caring for illegal aliens. Yeah. Alrighty, double checking. What is FEMA? Federal Emergency Management Agency. Federal Emergency Management Agency is an agency of the United States Department of Homeland Security, initially created under Jimmy Carter. So let me get this straight. The FEMA viewed the illegal invaders as an emergency, so they used most of their money to take care of them. But now an actual disaster happens that's affecting American citizens, and they're out of cash. Lovely. So this just might be my opinion, but I think that the civilian volunteers are doing a better job than the feds. I could be wrong. So we'll end the video on this article. Mountain mule packers deliver relief supplies to North Carolina flood victims as Biden-Harris regime fails. Concerned Americans are delivering much-needed supplies to suffering flood victims by pack mule as the Biden regime continues to fail in its responsibilities. According to Dr. Clayton Forrester, the Mountain Mule Packer Ranch, based in North Carolina, a company that provides pack mules to the U.S. military. Oh, I didn't know that. Alright, I learned something there. Is using its mules to deliver supplies to the stranded residents in Black Mountain and Swananio, North Carolina. I probably said that wrong. While multiple states across the Southwest have been battered by Hurricane Helene, the Cajun Navy has stepped up once again and deployed throughout the affected areas to help their fellow Americans in need. Although Joe Biden tells suffering Americans that the Biden-Harris administration has given them all we have, yeah, 'cause he gave everything else to the illegals, volunteers are actually giving all. Yeah, that's good. You know, hand to man, help your fellow man. 'Cause the government, all they see is numbers. Well, that's it for my thoughts on this disaster. Try to take care out there in Clown World, if you can.